Hey, what is up, DCS Crew? We have some exciting stuff prepared for you today. Here we have two prototypes from Kizer that I have been sworn to secrecy to not unveil until, well, recently. And the reason why is because these were production prototypes. They had not been produced in mass just yet. There were some slight changes that they did to these models, and that will be part of the changes that will be released once these are out. These are not out yet, and they're probably going to be pushed back from the tentative date of June 2020 that they had given me as a slated, a production date for these two. Presumably because of the fact that the supply chain was broken, not only in logistics, and getting knives to and from different warehouses all over the world, but from the factory as well. This review is on the Kizer Assassin from Carlos Elstner. So we're going to go ahead and check out these two knives. One is a front flipper, one is a standard flipper. Both have thumb holes, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about, so stay tuned. All right, welcome back. Okay, so just to get a couple of things out of the way, let's go ahead and do a size comparison of the Kizer Assassin prototypes from Kizer. Okay, so first things first, this here is the CJRB Feldspar. This is the small model, okay? And let's see, what else do we have here? This is the Spyderco UK pen knife. This is a non-locking knife from Spyderco, made here in the USA. What else? Oh, we have another Spyderco here. This is my typical EDC. This is the Spyderco Para 3. All right, also made in the US of A. Let's see here. We have the Rake P105. Or P105K. This is the Rake Fang. It's a little bit bigger. Okay. Let's see how many more we got here. Oh, okay, we got this guy. Okay, this is the SOG Terminus XR in BDZ1 steel. And let's see, do we have one more? Do we have more? Yep, here we go. This is the CJRB Centros, Dylan Mallory design. Awesome, awesome knife. And there you have it, okay? As far as a size comparison is concerned, these are pretty much your standard kind of office-friendly style knives. They're a little larger than, you would want for most knife jurisdictions that permit knives as long as they're under 3 inches, because of the fact that the blade length itself is 3.15 inches. And the handle length is a little over 4 inches. It's 4 1/8, which is 4.125. The cool thing about these knives, and just as an FYI, if you try to go ahead and look them up on the Blade HQ website, it does have them in there, and it says it's coming soon, but it doesn't even show the price, doesn't show anything, because these have yet to hit the market. They're probably not going to hit the market for a good while. Okay, let me just go ahead and show you really quick. If you look at the blade itself, you'll see that it says the name. It is the Assassin, and then right under it is the maker's mark. That maker's mark is that of Mr. Carlos Elstner. Okay, that's a new designer from Kizer. You probably heard that name before if you've checked out my Kizer video from SHOT Show 2020. If you haven't already, be sure to go ahead and check it out. There's the designation for it being a production prototype. Okay, and the other side will show the Kizer insignia as well as the model number and the steel that's being used. In this particular case, this is the variant, excuse me, not the model number, but the variant. This is P2. This is the front flipper. The standard flipper is P1, and I'll show that in a second. The steel is S35 VN. And like I said, here is the other one with the maker's mark. The Assassin insignia, the fact that it is a prototype is listed right there. Other side has the Kizer logo, S35VN steel, and the designation for it being P1, which is the standard flipper. Now, one thing to note, they were still kind of figuring out how to be able to go ahead and etch the maker's mark properly, which is why Even the sizing and just the etching is different on both of them for the maker's mark. As you can see, one is a little bit smaller than the other, and one is a little bit darker than the other. So something to consider about these, that you're going to be seeing a little bit more from Kizer, and I mean from other companies. I think that they've gotten to the point where, you know, the standard drop point or the spear point just isn't really, you know, I mean, you introduce another one into the market, you're like, oh, you know, yawn. Okay, it is what it is. These two are actually clip points, and you don't see this often, but the really cool thing about this is that it makes it a very, very slicey blade. And even though the blade length is about, say, I think I said 3.15, the actual cutting edge is 3.375. So you actually get almost 3.4 inches of cutting edge because of the fact that it's that sweeping angle and just nice belly to be able to get some nice slices. I really, really, really like that. It's something very different, you know, that Kizer has not produced, you know, in large amounts, and that you don't really see in large amounts, but you're going to start to see from companies like Kizer quite a bit with a lot of the newer models that they're coming out with, especially new models from Carlos Elstner. I do have a couple of other ones I'm going to be showing later on, but in this case, we're speaking particularly about the Assassin. So we're going to go over a couple of the pros and the cons, but before I do that, let me just go ahead and close these up again so you can see what they look like when they are folded up. Okay, as you can see, it's nice and thin. Okay, the profile is actually really nice. This titanium, it's matte. It has this kind of matte finish, but it's actually, it feels really silky to the touch. It feels really good, and I mean, just the overall feel of the knife it's nice. I don't know how other way to explain it. I mean, it's really nice. The blade itself has lent itself really well for cutting tasks that I've used it for. I've used them both. If you asked me to prefer one over the other, in all honesty, I mean, they're both really good, but I would probably prefer the front flipper because, you know, being that this size lends itself really well to, say, like office environments and places where you can have a very large knife, something that has as small of a profile as the front flipper, so that there's no, you know, there's no flipper that comes out here, you know, and you can open it discreetly and even use maybe the thumb hole for, you know, quicker opening. It lends itself really well for an office carry knife. Okay, so a couple of pros. Like I said before, it has the clip point blade, really, really nice. Well, kind of messed it up there. And actually, I'm actually going to talk about the opening in a second. So we'll start with this one in particular. Okay, the clip point blade is freaking awesome. It's a nice slicer, but aside from that, you have different deployment methods. And I like the way that they have gone ahead and they've worked on the deployment methods on these knives instead of, like, say, your standard, you know, flipper with a thumb hole. I'm sorry, excuse me, a thumb stud. Okay, being that you have a thumb hole, the good thing about it is it allows you to be able to use your thumb and roll it out either slowly, you know, quickly, or even, you know, just your index or your middle finger to be able to open the knife, whatever, you know, suits your fancy. Or if you just want to go ahead and use the front flipper itself, it actually works really well because it's on bearings. And I like the fact that since it has that thumb hole, it's not going to protrude. It's not going to, you know, add to the imprint of the knife while it's in your pocket. And it's something that really, you know, has stood the test of time. The thumb hole is something I feel personally that was patented and made perfect by Spyderco. But there are other companies that have been using this. This isn't a circular hole, it's more of like an oval hole, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's you know, any less is good, any less, you know, or any more inferior per se. Okay, so aside from that, one other thing that I noticed that it has, it's kind of different from most knives that I've seen recently, is that it has this kind of fuller that's here. Okay, aesthetically, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of it, and it's probably more of a weaker point for aesthetics. But when it comes to actually using the thumb hole, in all honesty, it works really well because it adds additional area for your hand to actually catch and flick out the knife. Which, by the way, super great action. I mean, they actually told me that the track for this particular knife was in the wrong spot, and that's one thing that they were going to change. When deploying the blade, that was one thing that they were going to change prior to mass production. But in all honesty, with this one, I mean, the the action is pretty freaking awesome. So if they're going to improve on this, I don't know what to tell you, man. This is pretty damn good. Okay, so yeah, so I guess as pros, you have the different deployment methods, whether it is, the flipper, whether it's the thumb hole, whether it's the front flipper. I mean, it works really, really well for that, okay? So another pro that it has is, you get multiple styles. You have the flipper, you have the front flipper, and then there's a third one that actually has speed holes in it to kind of been milled out inside of the titanium scales to be able to go ahead and reduce weight even more. That's not really my cup of tea. I like something like this. But in any case, they do have that option in the event that you're interested in checking it out. Like as an example, for this model, I didn't like it, but say like the Kizer Guru from Matt Degnan, they did have standard, and then they had versions with the speed holes. I think that version looks really, really awesome with the speed holes, but that's just me. So there's that. Now, the fact that it's a frame lock actually lends itself really well to this design, because it has that kind of like minimalist look, but it's also a nice, sturdy, strong lockup. And I have had no problems with any lock stick, when I'm flicking it out, when I'm, thumb flicking it, when I'm, spidey flicking it, anything like that. It has worked extremely well. And just kind of show you, that was me doing it nice and slow. And look at that lockup. It is firm. It's good to go. Guys, that was slow. And that's the quick version, and it locks up just the same. There is no release from that. It's not going to release at all. And the way that the pocket clip has been situated, it actually favors the frame side rather than, the rear of the frame rather than the frame lock slide, even though it sits right here in the middle. So when you are deploying it, it's not going to go ahead and apply pressure to the lock itself, which it would normally hinder deployment of the blade. So that's actually a really cool design element that they incorporated into the Kizer Assassin. Aside from the fact that it has, a nice solid lockup, the flat grind that's on this, clip point blade lends itself so freaking well to, just slicing tasks and even food prep. If you have to go and say, slice a tomato at lunch, or, prep any food, this is going to do really well in the kitchen as well as, outside of it. So I've actually used this for a number of tasks, and the S35VN steel has held its edge extremely well. All I've really had to do is strop it from factory, and it has stayed razor sharp, guys. I gotta tell you, it's really awesome, especially with a flat grind. It's honestly, it's one of my favorite. Between that and convex, it's really a toss-up. But for this, I think a flat grind is perfect on the knife. Now, one other thing that I do want to say that is a massive pro when you have titanium knives like this is the fact that they can be modded. Now, I don't know if you have been watching pages like Stasa23, or if you're a fan of companies like EDC Gearhouse and Way of Knife MI, but they do a lot of knife modding. You can blacken titanium, you can anodize it, you can stonewash it, you can age it, you can turn it different colors with the anodization, and you can do all of these different things to it. It doesn't necessarily just have to stay this color. This is just the standard color that it comes with, but you can do so many things to this. You can powder coat it, you can Cerakote it, you can do all this stuff. And I mean, with this kind of a knife, the modification possibilities are seemingly endless. So that's something to consider when you are, if you're looking in the market for a really cool knife, a cool different knife, and you want to go ahead and modify it, this is definitely an option you do want to check out. So something to consider. Now, there were some cons that I did want to go ahead and talk about. I'm not going to go ahead and talk about the placement of the detent ball and the action itself, because it's actually really good, although they did tell me that it was going to change, which means that it's going to feel different at the time of release. I'm assuming it's going to be better, but again, that's purely assumption. One thing that I do want to say that I feel is a con is because of the fact that it has this clip point design, and it has those tips. Those tips themselves, they get tapered to something very, very, very skinny, as you can see right there. And I feel like they would be prone to, let me just go ahead and put this here. There we go. That they would be prone to basically chip off and break off. I feel like it's a pretty fragile tip. Again, that's just me. I've never broken any of the tips off of my knives. I know that there's some people that are a little bit more unruly with their knives than others. If you use the knife for what it's intended for, it's going to serve you well. It's not going to have any issues. I think it's going to be great. But I do want to go ahead and talk about that now. Aside from that, I did want to talk about the designer. You guys don't know him. His name is Carlos Elstner. He's new to Kizer, and he has some new designs. I really like some of his designs, and some of them, he's a new designer, and he's got some new stuff. They're kind of putting it out there to see what the audience is for this kind of design. In all honesty, I'm kind of on the fence with this knife because of just it's something different that I'm not used to from Kizer, but that's kind of a good thing, and it's kind of not, because when you kind of go too far from something that they're not used to making, you tend to venture into uncharted territory, and that lack of confidence, especially that lack of confidence with a brand new designer that's coming up with stuff, it may be something that may deter somebody from purchasing this knife, as opposed to something from a designer that they do know. The Voxnays, the Dmitry Sinkovich, the Jens Ansos, the Todd Rexfords, the Matt Degnans, the Justin Lundquists, the Elijah Ishams. So I can go on. But in any case, he's a young, up-and-coming designer with Kizer. He's got the Assassin. He's got some other stuff that's coming up, like with Jungus. And, oh, man, what is the other one? Shoot. Okay, well, off the top of my head, there's the Jungus. Oh, yeah, and the Clutch. Amongst a few others. This is the first look at the Kizer Assassin. These are going to tip the scales at just over 3 ounces. I think it's 3.2 ounces. And honestly, the overall design and the contours, it felt pretty well in the hand. I mean, the front and reverse clip, reverse grip. I didn't have any issues at all with holding this. There were no hot spots from, the way that the clip and the knife itself was designed. And the jimping was nice in the area that it was placed. I just feel like it's a nice design. Now, the fact that it is a front flipper, I will tell you, having owned the Kizer Feist, I feel like it takes some getting used to, especially when you're used to just, standard like flippers and stuff all the time. But once you got it down, once you've done a little bit of practice, yeah, it lends itself, dang it, there we go. It lends itself pretty well to the design. And even if you want to just roll it out slow, wow, today is not my day, guys. All right, so let's try this one more time. 1, 2, 3. There we go. All right. So, you have different ways to deploy, but even if you don't want to go ahead and use the front flipper, but I feel like the overall design is a little bit larger than the Feist, and it allows it to be able to utilize the front flipper a little bit easier than the Feist. And the fact is, if you're not really a front flipper person, but you like to Spidey flick your stuff, you're never going to have a problem Spidey flicking this. So be on the lookout for this. This is going to be coming out in the very near future from Kizer. Maybe I will do a giveaway of one of these, and maybe the winner will get one of these, whichever is presented to them, either the flipper or the front flipper. Stay tuned for that in case it comes up in the future, maybe on my Instagram, which is Daily Carry Solutions as well, or right here. So if you have any questions about this design or any of the other designs that you see on this channel, feel free to go ahead and hit me up at the dailycarrysolutions.com website. There's a contact button there. You can feel free to go ahead and hit that and send me a message, and I will contact you back as quickly as possible, or comment below. So again, thank you so much for checking out the channel, and just remember, whichever version that you use, whether it is the front flipper, whether it's the standard flipper, whether it's the thumb holes, you know, that you use for deployment, just remember, if you EDC, think of DCS. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. It's been a pleasure. Take care.